Stop hunting. Start finding. Choose the AT&T Real Yellow Pages with complete ads and up-to-date local listings to find just what you need.
My universe is everything I imagine. I want to be a graphic designer. How can I get there? The Academy. It fits my busy lifestyle, and I can learn firsthand from instructors who've been there and know what it takes. Hey, my destiny is a career doing what I love, my way. My choice, my school. The International Academy of Design and Technology.
You imagine? We can get you there. Call 1-800-932-2900. 1-800-932-2900.
It's 4 o'clock. You want to dial in?
Yeah, you know, these calls would go a lot better if we had an office.
This is our office.
This is your daughter's dorm room, Bob.
Listen, we have internet, telephone,
dorm
lounge. It's all free.
You could just do business at FedEx office. They've got Wi-Fi, workstations. A lot of them are open 24/7. It'll still save us an overhead.
Hey, baby. Here, give me sugar. Got a room.
Technically, this is her room.
Hello, we're on.
We understand. You want less overhead. FedEx office.
Hi, I'm Danny Ramos, and welcome to this week's edition of Hispanic Speak Out TV, brought to you on Bright House Cable every Tuesday night, 9:30 p.m. on Channel 49. As you know, our show has been dedicated to bringing you news of the Hispanic community in the English language, and we certainly have a hot one for you today. A stunning article came out in the Orlando Sentinel this week, which revealed a massive amount of political cronyism and the possibility that Mildred Fernandez was targeted not only by the Siegel campaign, but also by Lawson Lamar's prosecutor's office, because she was encroaching on the political campaign of Siegel and might even overtake him. I'm here with Tony Suarez, and we're going to discuss this case and what has recently come out in the newspapers, extremely revealing and controversial. Tony, how you doing?
How you doing, Danny? Thanks for the opportunity to be with you on your show.
Well, let's go. Let's talk about this thing. I see that this article clearly says that the campaign manager was the one who stimulated this action against Mildred, Siegel's campaign manager. Not only that, but he had met with Lawson Lamar repeatedly to discuss, quote unquote, politics.
Right.
And that to me is like the smoking gun, you know what I mean?
Right.
Because you don't meet with people to discuss politics and if you're the campaign manager for Siegel and not talk about the campaign.
Yeah, when you add that to the fact that Lawson Lamar's family had made campaign contributions to the Siegel campaign, it doesn't smell right, you know, Danny. And it's really sad, you know, your show is Hispanic Speak Out, and, you know, as we integrate into American society and people like us who are second and third generation Hispanic Americans, many of our forefathers and many of the current Hispanics that move in from across the nation, across the world, come to this nation precisely because the corruption of their governments, precisely because there is no difference between the law and politics. Those who are in power can corrupt. And for us to find out that this is happening here in our hometown, it's really shocking. It's shocking. And so what we have, I think it's particularly interesting, not only because Mildred Fernandez happens to be Hispanic, but because we've been the victims of this stuff, whether you're from Venezuela, Colombia, or Cuba. You know, you run away from those countries precisely for this type of politics, and here we are confronted with it in our own backyard. So it's really shocking, and the evidence speaks for itself. What we have had is I have brought it with me so you can verify it. I have the calendar for Lawson Lamar, and it indicates the meetings with Eric Fogelson, who's the campaign manager, only days after they put up another person, this Tony Cabredo, as an informant. But most importantly is that his information, the report I have from the state attorney's office about Fogelson's, you know, statements are all false. They're false statements. Danny, if anybody else went to an investigator, went to a police officer, and made false allegations, as is evidenced by this report that was part of the record, he would be arrested for filing false reports with the agents. Unfortunately, not only is he not arrested, this information continues on with an investigation of Mildred Fernandez.
Okay. I see here the Orlando Sentinel. I wanted to read something from the Orlando Sentinel. A public records request of Lamar's calendar shows that the campaign manager for Siegel met with Lamar, asked about it. Lamar and Fogelson, the campaign manager, said that the two had met regularly to discuss politics. Lamar said it was possible, Forlong, the campaign manager, shared information about Fernandez, but added nothing he said led to her case. Now that really smells bad.
Well, first of all, that's untrue also. Because if they were meeting regularly, how come it's not on his calendar regularly? It's not on his calendar but once. And it posts the planting of a story, and according to this report, it was with the specific intent to besmirch Mildred Fernandez, not a casual conversation about politics. This report, the state attorney's report, indicates that Vogelson went there with one intention, to besmirch the campaign of Mildred Fernandez, and he did it with false information. They actually verified that none of what he started his story with was true.
Now, this prosecutor's office has a history of questionable behavior, and I know that there's some people who called for an investigation of Lawson Lamar's office, but nobody has actually investigated his office. There was that thing with Ernest Page, where Ernest Page went to jail, who happened to be running against Buddy Dyer for mayor, and he actually was prosecuted and went to jail. Then there was the issue about Buddy Dyer, who was caught, red-handed, and suddenly his trial left Orlando. It was taken out of Orlando before the grand jury. And, Buddy Dyer, in my book, shouldn't be mayor of the city of Orlando. I think that, a lot of people believe that, and here we go again with the same concept. And it's all attached to Lamar's office. How is that?
You also left out the Gary Sipling investigation.
The Gary Sipling investigation also. Gary Sipling, I forgot about that, and he came out, clean after all of that, and it was a character assassination. So it seems that anybody who tries to run against this machine lands up either being prosecuted or lands up being chased by Lawson Lamar's office.
And let me add you one more that you also seem to have forgotten. When I was running for the state senate, Lawson Lamar made a big deal about going after some absentee ballots. They went in there with all the media following him into the supervisor of elections office, confiscated absentee ballots, threw out an allegation about something going wrong with the absentee ballot, besmirched both myself and Gary Sipling. At the time I was running against Gary Sipling, and nothing happened with the complaint. Now, mind you, you know how difficult it is for a candidate to overcome just the suspicion of something happening. So even though there was no allegations ever thrown out against my persona, or that of Gary Sipling for that matter, the very fact that that was done in such a public manner, days before the elections, tells you there was political manipulation for that investigation as well. So yes, unfortunately, Lawson Lamar has a history of these types of prosecutions, and we're seeing it again.
Okay. What is the implication to Mildred Fernandez with this information that has now come out?
Well,
I mean, is there a possibility that there may be a different prosecutor? Is there a possibility that Lawson Lamar may be asked to remove himself from this case because of all the meetings that he had with, and the campaign contributions made? Is it possible that he can be removed from this case?
It will be a part of the strategy of this defense to move the court to relieve Lawson Lamar of the responsibility to prosecute in this case. Certainly, I think he's too compromised. He's going to be a witness in the case. So,
Well, how can he be a witness in the case and be the prosecutor?
Well, that's why.
You're making a motion to disqualify him based upon him being a witness for the case?
Yes.
Based upon his participation with the campaign manager?
Correct.
Of Siegel?
Correct.
Okay. Now, how does Mildred take all of this? I mean, how's she doing?
Well, you imagine this is a woman, a very proud woman, and she's 64 years old. She's, never had a problem like this. It was devastating for her to be arrested, shown through the old classic perp walk, having arrested and being, cackled upon by the media. It was devastating. Now her strength is coming back. She's buoyed by the fact that the truth is coming out. It's interestingly enough. At the time that she was arrested, they put her in a room. They put her in a police car, and they taped her, unbeknownst to her. They were conversing. She said, "I wonder if Bill Siegel has something to do with this." This is recorded in part of the discovery materials. You're free to look at it. So back then, she apparently sensed that Bill Siegel was behind this thing. That's part of the evidence, and now
Well,
it's
I
verified.
think that from the very outset, a lot of Hispanics in the know who are sensitive to politics felt intuitively that Siegel or his campaign manager were behind this.
There's lots of things that intuitively. Now, many months ago, I did a campaign, I did a press conference where I revealed certain connections of things that my intuition was telling me were connected. I prepared a graph. I don't know if you can show that graph, but it shows the connection of potential people who are interested. There are people who are in this, county who are very much against Mildred Fernandez, and they were agitating constantly against her. This group of people were the one from which guy Tony Suarez, the main principal victim, witness in this case, comes from. Now, his complaint against her, which launched this investigation, is from 2008. Why would a complaint of 2008, filed in February 2010, just at the time of Fulberson, his meeting with Lawson Lamar, all of a sudden become the interest of an investigation launched? You know they followed no protocols? No protocols which are established by the Florida Department of Law Enforcement for undercover operations were followed in this case. And so what happens is they just launched this thing, and my intuition was telling me, why were they doing it so quickly? Why did an old complaint all of a sudden become, who would benefit from this? I had to be another, a campaign. It was only through the continuing effort of discovery, digging out, interviewing witnesses, the hard work that goes into this investigation that you just start pulling together the dots. And so now my chart has the connections. I have Lawson Lamar with Bill Siegel, with the FDLE. Now the question is, where are the rest of the dots?
On the chart, you have Bill Siegel, right? And then it goes to Lawson Lamar. Well, the direct connection between Bill Siegel and Lawson Lamar is the campaign manager.
Right.
Now, I know politics, and I've been in politics for 30 years. I've done presidential campaigns, a lot of gubernators. There is no way that the campaign manager for Bill Siegel was going over to meet with Lawson Lamar and have coffee and crumpets.
Right.
That's just not the case.
And I think that's the issue. I think you put your finger right on it, that the real issue now that we have to find out is, what did Bill Siegel know, and when did he know it? Because he's planted it. This could not have happened without his knowledge. You just said it. I think it's...
Well, I think that the logic of it, and now it's a different thing with calendars and proof, but the logic of it is a campaign manager operates at the pleasure of the candidate. You know that, and I know that. He doesn't go to the bathroom without the candidate knowing. And anybody who's ever worked in a campaign knows that. Every day they're on the phone and having campaign strategies. So in my opinion, and it's only an opinion at this point, there's absolutely no way that Bill Siegel did not know that his campaign manager was meeting with Lawson Lamar to discuss politics.
And the proof of the pudding is that he hasn't fired this guy yet. Because for this kind of stuff, he should have fired him immediately.
He should have fired him. He should have got rid of him.
And the fact that he hasn't fired him is telling me that he's saying, listen, I can't blame him for what I know.
There's two reasons why you don't fire somebody. Okay? You don't fire somebody because they're a tremendous asset, which could be, and you don't fire somebody because they know too much.
That's right. That is true. That's a good angle. And that's right. He may not fire him because he knows too much. In fact, he may spill the beans. But bottom line, you can see that the political angle to this is clear. The fact that motivation is clear. And it's sad. There's no other word to use but sad to see the state of politics in this nation that's gotten so polarized, where now it's Democrat, Republican, no one wants to talk to each other. And now into the point where negative campaigning goes to this end.
But you want to know something, Tony? I think this is the way it's always been. The only difference is that technology has caught up to corruption. You know what I mean? It's like right now you can go on the internet, you have bloggers, you have people that can spill the beans by just going on the internet and creating a blog. So I think a lot of this stuff has come out because journalism has grown out of the pocket of the power brokers.
Yeah, it's true. And unfortunately that there is a responsibility that journalists have, such as yourself, because you're the medium which people get information. Credibility is important, and if you take information from a blogger who does not corroborate it, like that happened to that young lady in the federal system, where they took something out of context, and then she was getting fired for being a racist when she wasn't in fact at all. Ms. Sherrod, I think was her name. Sherrod. That is so sad when that happens, and media jumps on it without verifying the stuff. And so I think there's a responsibility by media. I think there's a responsibility by agencies like your state attorney's office that before they initiate investigations, that they verify the sources. And in this particular case, Fulgerson was giving false information. And if they already knew that he was giving false information and that Mildred Fernandez was a target, why did they continue this kind of
Just to go back again, what specifically was the false information?
Okay, specifically, I'll give you a second, I'll read it to you.
Yeah, okay, that's what we're
Says,
for.
during the latter part of February 2010, all right, February 8th, okay, he says, I received information from a confidential source that purported to have personal knowledge of possible campaign finance violations by Mildred Fernandez, current Orange County Commissioner and candidate for Orange County Mayor. I was advised by this source that they had actually observed the bank records and supported this allegation. All right? I was under the impression that the source did have personal knowledge. So telling them.
Now, who was the source then?
Fulgerson.
Well, how did he do that? How could he have information?
Well, then, when the agent who's investigating, an agent who works for Lawson Lamar, all right, starts checking with him. He says, after several days, I began to attempt to contact the confidential source again to determine any additional information. At this time, I learned that the confidential source actually did not have personal knowledge, but had been advised by a private investigator that he, the private investigator, had observed the bank records. Then the agent calls the private investigator to find out, well, what did this guy says? I then contacted Jeff Harwood, who's the private investigator, and was informed that he had only spoken to the confidential informant once, about 1.5 years ago, and had gotten a VIN number of a car to research for confidential source, but had no information or knowledge about any bank account information or personal knowledge about the suspicious payments. So therefore, first he made the impression that he had personal knowledge about payments, and then he backs off. He says, I don't have it. And then he gives information of the private investigator who says, I don't know what he's talking about. So that would be a crime.
Well, this is Lawson Lamar launches investigation based upon these contradictions.
On these contradictions. And then finally they just blow it up and say, well, he apparently was misunderstood. He just probably misunderstood about the information.
Now, what is your position legally? What position can you take legally when this comes out? That this is false information and that was used to launch an investigation?
Well, I think that we have to go to protocol. And one of the things among the issues that we're going to discuss of whether Lawson Lamar's office should be qualified to handle this case is the manner in which to handle the case. Not only the connections, but the protocol and manner they should have been verifying these things. They should have understood that there was a political motivation and the connections that already Lawson Lamar has.
Well, Lawson Lamar's office is politically motivated no matter what.
Well, they're not supposed to be.
But that's not the reality.
Well, they need to pull out and have someone else who look at this thing on the
who
first
makes
page.
that decision? Because Lawson Lamar is a prosecutor. Who makes the decision to pull Lawson Lamar off and put somebody who's objective on?
The court.
Okay.
So
and which court is that?
Well, that may be before the circuit court that the case is pending in front of.
Okay. And where is that court based?
In Orange County.
Well, that's fun.
So yeah, that's the battle to come.
Do you know who the judge is at this point?
Yes, I do. I've not put his name into it.
All right, I'll look that up anyway. So, we'll get the name of the judge out there eventually, and we'll follow up on that. But I understand your position on that. So where do we go from here on this? What's your next move?
Well, I have published my witness list because this is not.
Is Lawson Lamar on that witness list?
Not yet. Right?
Why not?
Because there's a technique that I have to develop.
Are you going to do that?
If my evidence takes me there, if I believe the evidence will take me there, then that will be for him to be a potential.
Well, according to this article, which was verified by the reporter at the Orlando Sentinel, which is David Damron, he confirmed here in writing, isn't that enough, that he had ongoing meetings with Siegel's campaign manager to discuss politics?
Well, mind you, I have this report in front of me, and I have his calendar.
Yeah.
Enough, but I think it'd be more prudent for me to get to Fulgerson first.
Okay. All right. There was talk that I overheard a conversation that somebody else is going to come out and ask Siegel to step down. So by the time this airs, that public relations release probably went out already.
Correct. this is now catching on because, as you indicated, politics and negative campaigning is constantly being done. I mean, that's part of life. You can't. That's unfortunate, but it's true. But this type of negative campaigning is extremely over the edge. The other candidates for mayor now are catching on and realizing that this is beyond the beyond, and that not only should Eric Folk
gaps large enough for him to lose. Now that Mildred is out of the way,
right.
okay, in the campaign, is Siegel the front runner? And do you think that this gap created by this hoopla of political corruption going to close the gap enough for him to actually lose the campaign?
For me to make,
because you're an old politician, you know the game.
Right.
Okay, so this is an opinion piece.
Yeah, it is. But for me to give that opinion, I would have to look at the numbers, you know, and you know, politics is a numbers game. I have not looked at what the percentages were for Siegel or for Teresa Jacobs or Linda Stewart or Mr. Mel Falconer prior to this announcement. I do believe, based on my information, that if I'm getting feedback, that Siegel will lose, if not the entire Hispanic community, most of the Hispanic vote. Now, from a political point of view, he runs as a Democrat, known as a Democrat. Linda Stewart's a Democrat. Jacobs is a Republican. So the primary beneficiary probably is going to be Linda Stewart, as the Democrats abandon Siegel for his dirty tricks and move to another Democrat.
I had Linda Stewart here, but is she? You think she's going to lay back on this and just let it go by and not jump into the pool on it, you know, and just reap the benefits, or do you think she's going to be aggressive and take advantage of this situation?
Not be I to give Linda Stewart advice, but if I was Linda Stewart's campaign, I'd be telling her, jump on that girl.
Yep.
Jump on all over it, because, I mean, you know, right now, if Linda Stewart was smart, she'd be on every Spanish radio station, in the media, doing everything she can to track that vote to her. It's a natural vote because most of the Hispanics are Democrats. And so there was, you know, going on between Siegel and Linda. So at this point, if she could take advantage, that's what she probably would do.
Okay. Let's take a little break and we'll be back in a second. Just a reminder for everybody out there, on October 1st, there's going to be a job fair. So if you're looking for a job, there's going to be a job fair October 1st, starting at 11 o'clock in the morning at the Florida Hotel. That's inside the Florida Mall. Again, October 1st, which is a Friday, Florida Hotel, job fair. There's going to be about 30 employers hiring people on all kinds of positions. Also, if you're selling a car, buying a car, go to bidonmyauto.com, www.bidonmyauto.com. It's a new source for buying and selling vehicles throughout the Central Florida area. And you can post your car on bidonmyauto.com absolutely free. There's no charge. So instead of paying to sell your car and paying $59 or $100 to run a small ad somewhere in one of those car publications, www.bidonmyauto.com is absolutely. Get back to Tony so that we can continue talking about the Mildred Fernandez case in Central Florida. Highly controversial things going on right now this week. There's been a tremendous expose that the campaign manager for Siegel, who was running against Mildred Fernandez, had ongoing conversations with the prosecutor, and that the prosecutor's family was donating money to the Siegel campaign. Highly irregular stuff going on here.
Yeah, highly regular, and I think that the most important thing, I mean, obviously I'm an attorney, I represent an individual client, but you know, I've been a soldier, and I've been a politician, and I am a law professor, and I take a lot of pride in our American system, our Constitution, and what it meant. I was willing to die to defend this Constitution. And that's when I took that oath as an officer. But unfortunately, Danny, to see what's happened in our political system is a very sad note. We see it every single day as we read the paper. There is no attempt at trying to resolve the problems of America, but there is only an attempt to try to tear each other down for each political party's particular interest. But when politics gets to this end and can be manipulated in this manner, it is another level of political corruption. which is ugly. And I think we all have enough responsibility to stand up against that and just say, no.
Well, you know, when you're dealing, let's face it, Orlando is not New York. In New York, you have a lot of check systems, you know, and very vocal constituents. Here, everybody works for somebody. It's a very closed group of people. So people are afraid to talk here. They're absolutely afraid to talk. Even sometimes journalists are afraid to talk here because there's only one daily newspaper, because the networks are influenced, and freedom of speech here is sometimes very tainted. And I found that. I've been here for 13 years. I've definitely found that. I've released stories on Speak Out TV where powerful interests have tried to take me off the air several times because of what's being said on the show. Right. And we're not always controversial, but we'd like to present things that affect the Hispanic community. This is one show which I believe there's going to be an attempt to take me off the air. There's no question about it that there's going to be an attempt to take this show off the air, off of Bright House, by powerful interests here. And of course, we're going to fight it, and we will address those issues as they come. But this is something I've experienced before.
Well, this is a battle that all of us have to do, sometimes on a small scale, sometimes on a big public scale. But each one of us as an American has to stand up and say, no, we will not allow this, and then look to hold accountable those people that use these types of tactics. Whether it's the prosecutor, mind you, that's no easy task. I have to go up in that courtroom all the time. I make a living. You know, I'm going to be making one big enemy from the prosecutor's office. I certainly will be persona non grata there.
Nothing is forever. You know what I mean? Nothing is forever. Politicians think that they live forever. And the fact of the matter is, because of term limits and because of other issues, eventually they're gone. And what goes around comes around.
Well, good. I'm near retiring anyway.
I'm a firm believer in that. As we go forward on this case, you're going to be going away on vacation for a couple of weeks?
I had previous plans to take vacation, and we obviously need it because this case is unlike other cases. These cases have its own life. You know, there are sources that come to me from all over the place. People who are enemies of the enemy, come.
Do you want to call for an outside investigation by the Department of Justice?
Absolutely.
The Attorney General?
I think it's absolutely clear and necessary, and I would like to make this public call, that we should have an outside agency investigate why Fogelson is allowed to make false allegations, make false representations to an agent of the state attorney's office, and has not been prosecuted for this false statement. And also, of course, I'd like to see...
Well, that's a felony, isn't it?
That's it. It's not a felony. It may not be a felony. It may be a misdemeanor. I'm not sure. It's filing a false statement. But I also realize that why did the state attorney's office not follow serious protocol? Why did it not check out the motivation of Cabrero and all these people who are now at the timing of these events?
Before we close, do you think the FDLE was used as a mechanism, or do you think they were involved?
No, I think they were used as a mechanism.
Okay, so you're saying that they were just told and they followed through?
And they followed through.
Okay. In this particular instance, do you think that Mildred will be vindicated?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Great. Thank you. Thank you, Tony. This is Hispanic Speak Out TV, and brought to you on Bright House 49 every week, Tuesday nights at 9:30 p.m. Tune in to us, and you will find truth in journalism here like you don't find anywhere in Orlando. This is Danny Ramos, and we will see you next week.